Good morning, friends and enemies. Sip and Rip, number 3. This is November 9th. Snowing today, Southern Ontario. This is William Daniels. You may remember this guy from Boy Meets World. He was Mr. Feeney, everyone's favorite principal. There's probably a couple other ones. Mr. Belding's up there, but Feeney was a favorite of mine. If you were born in the 80s or 90s, you remember Boy Meets World on Friday nights as part of the TGIF lineup, I believe. Mr. Feeney's 98. He's been married to the same woman for 75 years. Incredible. So Bonnie's also a lucky lady. Why are we talking about Mr. Feeney? Well, I'll tell you in a second. First of all, the sponsors, EasyDNS, Bull Bitcoin, 256 Heat. Mark's got your back over at EasyDNS if you want to do anything with your domain, buy a domain, host a domain, whatever. He's got you some VPS stuff, lots of security options there. Go over, use the code CBP Media. Bull Bitcoin, where you can buy, sell, and pay your bills. If you use the code CBP to sign up, you get 25% off your fees. Can't beat that. And then, of course, 256 Heat. I am heating with hash right now. You can't even hear it, but it is hot in here. And like I said, snowing today. So important to stay warm. 256heat.com. Tell them you sent you get a bit of a discount. Okay, so William Daniels, Mr. Feeney. Why are we talking about him? Because he would probably still be paying his mortgage if he was on a 50-year banger from Donald Trump, obviously announcing some new, what he is calling affordability measures for mortgages, expanding amortizations out to 50 years. Dodd-Frank in 2008 prevented this from becoming the norm and reduced the, I don't want to say the maximum because I'm not sure, but the standard to the 30-year mortgage that we're so familiar with here and in the States. Obviously, you can't have people taking on this much debt for this long. It's a bad idea. We saw a crisis stem from this already. But here we are. It's not fair to say that it's not fair to say this is a good policy, because on our show and other shows, we laughed at the Trudeau Liberal government under, I think, the leadership of Minister Freeland. There was talk of something similar, that we were going to do expanded AMs on mortgages to make things, quote unquote, more affordable. It obviously doesn't make things more affordable. You end up being a slave to debt for your whole life. And there's some numbers here. $500,000 dollar mortgage. If you look at 30-year fix, you're talking about $2,550 in P&I, principal and interest. 40-year P&I is $2,363 a month, and then 50-year P&I is $2,277. So it's like $300 savings maybe, but you're paying a ton more interest over the course of that period. And while it is true that if you put the savings in the S&P, I've done this. I've extended my AM out back to 30 years. I think 50 is probably a bit too long. You're talking about a whole life of debt servitude basically to the bank, and a chance that if you buy at 38 years old, which is the average home buyer price or age in America, I'm not sure what it is here, probably around the same. If you buy at that age, the likelihood that you die while still owing on the house is basically 100%. So this is interesting stuff that it's being floated in the States and supported by Pulte, who I think is his housing guy. I'm not sure exactly what his role is, but he's been vocal on Twitter over the last little while. Oh, there he is, Director of Federal Housing. You might remember, if you're a Bitcoiner, this is the same guy who, I think 2 months ago, put out the tweet about how crypto and Bitcoin need to be recognized as part of down payments for houses. So obviously some interest here, no pun intended, in increasing the number of people under a certain age who can afford a house based on the principal and interest payments. How do you do that? You extend out. And there's some stuff here about Dodd-Frank if you want to read it. This was something else before. What was this page? Yes, UBI. So this is UBI. I just tweeted Floyd Marinescu about this, and I'm starting to come around a bit to the idea of UB something, though I'm not sure printing money and giving it out is the way to go. Obviously, there's a UBI bill in second reading now, so we'll probably see some form of this at some point, whether you like it or not. Let's talk for a second about this. Jobs are eroding all over the country, which we'll discuss on this program in a second. But the idea that you have meaningful work for a lifetime of earnings, where you have an opportunity to progress and you find yourself waking up in the morning and doing something maybe you don't love, but at least has some purpose, some function, something where you can see the benefits in your community or your society. These jobs they're important, I think, to people's mental health and to sort of what I'll call societal structure. But there are fewer and fewer of these jobs available now, thanks to AI and thanks to just general streamlining, I think, of a lot of different industries. This has been happening for a long time. AI has not been the magic bullet to really push this, but it is yet another thing eroding the foundations of these jobs and these opportunities. So what are we going to see? We're going to see some kind of UBI at some point. My pitch, and it's not my idea, though I haven't seen a good set of clear definitions around this. My pitch is that we should be doing something like universal basic capital. In America, we just saw the administration take a 10% stake in Intel because they want to see Intel succeed as part of a broader AI race, HPC race, whatever you want to call it. I think you can define it a number of different ways, but there's obviously some importance to whether or not Intel is a successful player in a longer term game around AI. Okay, so we'll staple it to AI for now. If they are successful, then there's some chance the American people could see a benefit from that, both in terms of their day-to-day life and in terms of some kind of payment from the success of that equity share. It's like a quasi-sovereign wealth vehicle type thing. I would like to see the administration and also the Canadian government do similar things with homegrown companies. I mean, if it was up to me, Intel would not be where I put my money, although they are clearly struggling against NVIDIA, right? That was part of, I think, the pitch there, even though I don't think that was publicly announced or stated. I would like to see them put stake in something like Apple, Google, Amazon, because those companies are super important to the structure and fabric of American society. I think they're critically important to security as well. And looking across the landscape of like electronic devices in mobile compute, high-powered compute, those companies are critical, even in the AI silo. And so if you had a government using money for equity stakes in certain private industry that you could pay out dividends to taxpayers, that's a better structure than UBI. I want to see what Floyd Marinescu says about it. I tweeted him this morning. It's very early, but maybe he'll get back to me at some point and we can talk about this on the show. I'm not sure. Let's talk about jobs a bit. Canada, 66.6 thousand jobs. That's a signpost there. Added in October. Unemployment rate falls to, allegedly anyway, 7.1%. I don't believe in most of these numbers. It's hard to compute these. I don't think the books are cooked. I think it's an impossible number to really know. The interesting part, though, Canada full-time employment falls almost 19,000 jobs, and part-time employment rises more than 85,000 jobs. So, as always on Twitter, for the people on audio only, there's a reply here to the Zero Hedge Jobs tweet of a what the media would call a South Asian man delivering DoorDash on a bicycle. So interesting. And then, of course, even below that, some other good commentary. The wholesale and retail trade sector saw the most growth with 41,000 positions added, followed by transport and warehousing and information culture and rec. So these are all seasonal jobs, which is interesting, right? It's not really a sign of a strong economy, certainly not in the full-time silo. And then Stephen Punwasi from Better Dwelling, replying to a tweet from nationally famous retard Dean Blundell. Total moron, this guy, by the way. It's almost hard to believe a guy can be this dumb online, but I suppose when your entire follower base is just all boomers, they're equally unwilling to read any data. So Punwasi says, numbers don't lie, the economy is booming. Over 1 in 3 of the new jobs went to senior citizens, and the population of multiple job holders grew by 30,000. My friends, this is bad news. I cannot stress enough how bad this is. You do not want to see seniors picking up work. You do not want to see, quote unquote, new jobs being held by people who already have jobs. It's not good. It's a good cup of coffee, though. It's not good. I can drink the coffee actually without wearing booty shorts. If you saw that tweet earlier last week, I won't comment on that further. Interesting stuff in the Canadian job market. I think for most people, they know that the job market is bad. You can go on Reddit, Twitter. You probably have some anecdotes in your personal life, or maybe you yourself have anecdotes about how difficult it is to get a job. It's going to get worse, which is why I do think this like UBI, UBC, Universal Basic Capital thing is basically unavoidable. You have to do something to prevent riots and violence, and you need to give people meaning. So how do you do it? You got to find a way, and doing nothing is not an option. We see what happens when people are unemployed. They become destitute. They become rudderless, let's say, and those are the best case scenarios. We've also seen, obviously, a lot of addiction and mental health problems in Canada and other places. So you got to think about these things. It may not be pleasant. You may not be interested in coming off your stance on something like Universal Basic Capital, but technology is just coming so fast down the pipe now, and jobs clearly are being taken away, removed entirely from the equation. And as we're adding, as we'll talk about later, hundreds of thousands of new people to the population every year against everyone's better judgment, we're on track for something interesting. Let's talk about the budget. We'll talk more in depth about this tomorrow, but there's some bangers in here from Wealth Moose. If you know Wealth Moose on Twitter, he's a good account to follow. I'll just talk briefly about some of the line items. 150 million to CBC, which includes exploring Canada joining the Eurovision contest. Hilarious there. We're trying to modernize social media messaging with taxpayer-funded content strategies to the tune of about 18 million. I guess that's open mouth thumbnails and certain government officials glowing in YouTube thumbnails. I don't know. I'll have to ask Luke Mitchich about that. If I start seeing that, I'll know that they contacted him and that he's making about 18 million a year doing those thumbnails and botting for the federal government of Canada. Digital citizenship curriculum for K-12 is an interesting one that I am not a fan of at all. I don't want to see Ottawa in the classroom one bit more than they already are. Classrooms and schools in general in this country have become a laughingstock. And talking to parents of people in my neighborhood and parents that I know, it's becoming more and more difficult to be a parent, given that schools now are basically functioning only as social justice engines. Teachers are broadly incompetent. They don't take care of themselves physically, which I find repulsive. And here we are now, digital citizenship curriculum. These people don't have any idea what it takes to be a competent digital citizen, just to look at the news headlines that pass for true in this country. Some other bangers, including an $11 million holiday event coordination budget. I think that's for the federal Christmas party. I don't know what the likelihood of that actually is, but interesting stuff. We'll talk more in depth about the budget on Monday. Like I said, this is from Juno News. A Durham mother, speaking of schools, says her son in Colonel Farewell Public School was pulled out of class after she found out he was being tested on Islamic teachings while Christian holidays were reduced to chocolate and cartoons. I don't know if this is true, but there's some comments here about the Catholic system and sending your kids to Catholic schools. I would love to do that. I'm not a practicing Catholic. I was raised Catholic. The older I get, the more value I think there is in having these, even if they are porous, walls between social justice and education. And there's a number of things in the current curriculum that I disagree with in terms of them being taught to kids. Certainly, Islamic teachings have no place in a modern classroom. They have no place in the modern world. We just saw, how many times do you have to see giant prayer circles in intersections before you realize that these people are not really interested in assimilation. They're not really interested in modern thinking, modern ways of thinking or living. Islam should be banned. I realize that's unpopular, and I realize people will say, "Oh, you're asking for daddy government to do something." Yeah, I am. I am. Find me a country of the 20% Islamic population or adoption that you would live in. There are none. And we are quickly approaching that number faster than I think anyone realizes. In no small part, thanks to this stuff from our friend Millennial Moron. IRCC has confirmed that the 148,000 permanent residence admissions for existing refugees and temporary workers are on top of the target levels of 380,000 per year. I have already been critical about how targets are expressed, but excluding these from the levels plan makes zero sense. I love Millennial Moron, but my friend, it only makes zero sense if you think they're trying to be honest, and they're not. And I think a lot of people are tiring of this. I've said on the show before, and I'll say here now, there's been a clear change in what's acceptable to say in mixed company about immigration and immigrants. It does not make you racist, bigoted, xenophobic to say that the people coming over from the third world today are simply not quality people. It's not fair to criticize anyone saying that, because everyone can see. The longer this goes on, the more problems the country will have. Pressures in social situations, pressures in healthcare, pressures in school, pressures in religious fault lines. It'll just keep happening. And so you have to get away from this as fast as possible. Find a place where these people are not living, live away from city services, live away from downtown. In Bitcoin, we talk about citadels. The real citadels that will keep you away from this nonsense are the small towns that are predominantly, let's say run by people who have small businesses in town that aren't worried about charging a few extra bucks for coffee because the income level in the area allows it. And people, I think, instinctively know, and now are being told more and more in social situations that this is very important to continue doing in terms of paying a little more for stuff to keep the Century Initiative nightmare out of your jurisdiction. This is a crazy bit of data here. I won't read the whole thing, but it's interesting that there's clear shift in the way that these numbers are being reported is intentionally misleading in my view. I won't speak for Millennial Moron, but I do view this as intentionally misleading, and it's good to see him covering this. So that's it. This is the third time I've recorded this video because I can't get the effing mic to work properly. I hope it recorded. And if you're enjoying these, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, whatever, and come back Monday night for the flagship show, 7 o'clock Eastern. Len and I talking about Bitcoin and the economy, and of course, some other stuff in between. We'll see you then.